finally getting around to doing the seats. So I've had to rip out the floor. This is the panel that goes right where I'm standing. Basically what I need to do is get some channels similar to this folded up to go in here to brace between these two channels for the seats to bolt onto. Now to do that, unfortunately, there was some aircon hoses that were routing around here, and there's also these coolant hoses which are going to block any kind of modification. So unfortunately I've had to rip the aircon out, which I didn't really want to do. I could have rerouted it, but it probably would have just got real expensive, and at the end of the day that's what you got windows for. Plus this area that I'm standing in now is where the aircon unit was, so I've now freed up this whole area and it's got an external vent, so I'll be able to use this as either the house batteries under the floor, because the lithium batteries have to be vented externally and sealed from the inside of the bus. So I might build a platform here for a big row of house batteries, or it can be the gas storage again because it's got the external vent. So there's a silver lining and everything. It's not the end of the world. I'm kind of happy with how it's all going, although I bet you when it gets to summer I'll regret that. But at the end of the day, that's what we've got windows for, and we also have the 12 volt ventilation fans that we can run permanently if we have to. Anyway, so I've ripped out all the aircon lines. I had to rip out all the roof lining again, and I've ripped out the aircon unit out of there, so I've saved a whole bunch of weight. It's all done now. The aircon's out. That's the aircon unit there. So pretty beefy, pretty heavy, and cleared up quite a bit of space. The next job is to deal to these coolant lines. So these are the ones I've got to get rid of really. And what these are, it's coolant lines from the engine block that used to run to heating units that are distributed throughout the bus from when it was a passenger vehicle. So there was one back there and there was one here, obviously, because that's already been looped here and it was already looped back there. But yeah, that's what we're up to at the moment. So I'm just undoing all these, loosening up the coolant lines. So that's a soft line that runs all the way up the front. I've unbolted it from the chassis, and then it goes to a hard alloy line, so I'm not going to be able to pinch that. What I want to do is cut it here, so I need to find somewhere to pinch further back in the line. So I've traced it, and the next bit of soft line is right down in here in the engine bay, so I'm going to have to get under the bus, pinch it off down there with some clamps, and then cut it here. I'm going to cut here and here and put a loop, a soft loop that goes between the two. So I'm going to use these, see if I can fit them up under the engine bay, because I've got a nice flat surface area that's quite soft and it's not going to puncture the hose. So I'll crawl under here in the wet stuff, see if I can get these on. Alright, I just managed to get them on. You can see them there, the red bits. Hard to see, there's no point in recording that because you wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing because my hands are blocking the way, but they're on. Let's get cracking. So what I'm going to do now is find a low point, which is here. I'm going to undo these hose clamps into that bucket and try and drain what's in these pipes over here. And the fact that it's stopped means my clamp idea has worked. So now we're just going to undo that, make my way down to these ones, do the same over here, and then I can rip the old pipes out. And then that's one set of hose that can come out. So because it's alloy, it's going to cut pretty easily, so I'm just going to grab the hacksaw and cut it right by the joint and give myself enough fat as possible. I can always make it shorter if I have to. So what I'm going to do is just run a screwdriver around the outside, apply a bit of leverage and just round off the inside. Give me a nice soft finish on the inside. And grab a file and just touch it up on the outside and get rid of any sharp edges. I don't want to cut through that hose. To help it slide on, I'm just going to put a touch of CRC on it. That's in, looped up, got rid of all this. I've got space now for the cross beams. So let's go and relieve the pinch on the front of the coolant lines, chuck the batteries in and start her up. She hasn't been started for a while. See how we go. Alright, so we've got the seats back from the engineer. We've got our plate welded in with our support brackets. and we've had it extended 50mm to raise the height of the seats, so it's a good comfortable height for sitting at and for storage underneath in the L couch that is soon to be there. What I'm going to do is, to make it easy, is unbolt the seats, slide the floor into place, bolt the seats back in, trace around everything, cut it all out, and then put it all back in. And everything's going to get bolted in through them, so it's a good little test fit. Now I'm going to pull the floor up, paint that both sides, drill the holes for the rivets on the steel, and then paint the steel both sides, and everything can go in. Next job is marking out the channels to rivet into. So as you can see, I've traced the skeleton of the underfloor by tracing it onto this and then tracing it back across on both sides. And now I'm just going through marking the center and doing points for the rivets at 100mm centers as per the engineer's specifications. So now we're going to go ahead and drill these holes. So what I'm going to do is get a punch and punch where it needs to be, so I've got a little divot so the drill bit doesn't slit. So this is a 3.26 high-speed drill bit, and we're using 3.2mm rivets. So we've got a bit of extra in the hole so we can get it in, and these are monol rivets. So they're a special kind of steel compound which are resistant to corrosion and reduce the electrolysis into similar metals. So this is what's been specified by the engineer, so this is what goes. Pretty expensive, but still it was only, I don't know, 20 bucks for 50 of them. So let's go ahead. I'm not going to rivet it just yet. I am just going to drill all the holes, so all the holes are drilled, so then when I paint it, every little bit of mild steel is protected. Alright, so all the holes are drilled, the steel's been cleaned with some terps. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint it. So what I'm using is this Metal Shield epoxy enamel with a 25% penetrol mix. So this is a penetrating primer oil for lightly rusted steel or bare steel. You can use it as a primer. Because this doesn't need a primer, I'm just going to thin it with this 25%. Use this throughout the whole bus on all the steel that I've painted, and it's absolutely awesome. Alright, so we've got everything painted. We've done a couple of layers on the steel plate, and we've also painted the plywood floor. So now we're going to go ahead and rivet it in. I've put the rivets in so the steel doesn't move around once I start riveting, because rivets are semi-permanent. It's not like an unscrew, you can unscrew it, I'd have to drill them out. So I want to make sure I've got it right and it doesn't move. So I'm just going to go ahead and bang out all these rivets, and then I can get the engineering certifier to come out and check it out before I put everything back in. It's actually a real relief to be at this point of the build, because this is one of the jobs that almost put us off doing this. We'd heard plenty of horror stories about the cost involved with getting seats installed and certified, and we managed to find a reasonable way to do it, which is sourcing second-hand seats out of a lighter vehicle than what you're going into, that are fully restrained with seat belts on them. And for our purpose, we didn't want just a lap belt on a bench seat, because you spend a lot of time on the road and we want to keep the kids safe. So we wanted the full lap and diagonal belts, and so we looked for stressed seats and seat belts out of a lighter vehicle. In my case, it was out of a Hi-Ace, and it worked perfectly. So there was no real cost in the seats themselves. All the cost has been with engineering and certification, which the engineering wasn't that much, and obviously I've got to pay the certifier. They've got a pretty hefty hourly rate, but you can't avoid that. You have to do that with these things, so it is what it is. But yeah, pretty stoked to be at this point. Once I got this in, it'd be a huge relief, and then we can start the fun part on the build. Really, that's all the main bits of prep done, and we start doing the likes of kitchen, bed, fridge, storage, couches, all the cool stuff that will come along quite nicely. So yeah, let's rip into this, get these rivets done, and call it a day. Alright, that's it. Job done. Looks pretty nice. That's that part of the job done. That's a good feeling. Alright, we'll probably end the video here. We've had a bit going on in this one. Just got to get the engineer in to give this the final sign off before I fix this timber floor in. And then the seats are in. It's permanent. She's done dillies. So move on to the next few jobs, which are going to be the fun parts. But yeah, thanks for watching. And if you want to see the fun, interesting stuff, make sure you stick around for the next one. Catch you later.